Abundance of God's grace, or God's aid in helping mankind, was written in Romans 5 verse 2 and 17, emphasizing that through faith in Jesus Christ, we receive various kinds of God's help. The most significant is our salvation, because we only have one intercessor to God, and that is our Lord Jesus Christ, as written in Romans 8 verse 34 and Hebrews 7 verse 25. Also by faith, we obtained God's blessing for an access to God's grace that we now enjoy. According to Matthew 6:33, by seeking God's righteousness through faith in Jesus Christ, God will give us everything we need. And in Psalms 115 verse 11 and 13, it is stated that when we fear God and trust in Him, He will be our helper and He will bless us. And if we turn from iniquity, at the same time obey and serve God, as written in Job 36 verse 10 and 11, we will spend our days in prosperity and years in pleasure. It is also written in Psalm 7 verse 11, that God is angry with the wicked every day. As what was mentioned in Job 35 verse 12, James 4 verse 6 and 1 Peter 5 verse 5, when a person full of pride cry out to God for help, God does not answer because of their pride. This is the reason why God gives grace to the humble. For the eyes of the Lord watches them, and He is attentive and listens to their prayers, but God resists the proud. For He is against them, because pride removes God's grace. Humbleness, turning from iniquity, fearing, trusting, obeying and serving God are the virtues produced by our righteousness through faith. When we show our generosity in the form of tithing mentioned in Proverbs 3 verse 9 and 10 and Malachi 3 verse 10, we can obtain God's blessings pertaining to our prosperity, material riches, and increase of wealth, by means of 10% of our total income or profit we gained. Afterwards, sharing and giving part of them in supporting for our congregation, and the remaining part in sharing and giving them to help the needy. We can get help from God. The concept of tithing mentioned in Leviticus 27 verse 30 was meant to support the priest and caretakers of the congregation. In general, this supports the church and its ministries, as stated in 1 Corinthians 9 verse 14. While the concept of charity and almsgiving in supporting the needy was emphasized in Proverbs 19 verse 17 and Matthew 25 verses 35 to 40. That by giving help to the poor, God will pay you back for your kindness, and in caring for the needy, it is like serving God directly. God is very well pleased by our generosity. He loves a cheerful giver who gives willingly. This is evident in 2 Corinthians 9 verse 7. Each of us should give heartily, not reluctantly, or under compulsion. Obviously, tithing, giving, almsgiving, charity, sharing and caring are doubtless to say the virtues that comes from our righteousness through faith. As a reminder, we also need to consider Proverbs 10 verse 4. Stating that lazy hands make for poverty but diligent hands brings wealth. Thus, diligence and hard work will also contribute and be our pathways to prosperity. But the important thing to think about is trusting in God's provision, as written in Philippians 4 verse 19. To experience God's blessing, God's provision in each of us must be performed, because in Timothy 6 verses 7 to 11. God is warning us of avoiding greediness for money and excessive pursuit of wealth, which can lead to our own destruction and perdition. But focusing instead of God's provision, practicing how to be content and satisfied with what God has given us, avoiding covetousness. And the most important thing is to concentrate on righteousness through faith in Jesus Christ. Consequently, when performing the virtues previously mentioned here that comes from our righteousness through faith, as well as practicing God's provision, and in trying to be diligent, it will result in making us eligible in getting God's help and eventually produce life's prosperity through God's blessings. Narration of the video text is provided in the description box.